Hi, I'm Skip, and I'm hosting this event tonight. It is a launch party for this very nice book called Sinister Societies, and it contains five of the people here and one who is not. And I'm going to introduce each of them to you. And actually, I'm going to introduce the fact that you're all going to introduce yourselves. Then one by one, I'm going to ask you to do that, and then we're going to get into the readings, and the cool stuff's going to start happening. Okay, so I'm going to go in order of appearance in the book. Cindy O'Quinn, say hi to the nice
Hello.
people.
Hello, nice people.
And you, okay, we'll just leave it right there. Michael, no, Eric.
Hello, I'm Errick Nunnally. I'm a graphic designer and an author. My latest novel, The Queen of Saturn and the Prince in Exile, is currently available, and this fine collection of novellas, Agent Josephine Baker Against the Island of Horrors, and looking forward to reading an excerpt here tonight.
There you go. Okay, Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Burke. I am a author and comic book doctor. I own a 25-year-old comic book business up in Massachusetts,
Oh,
and
wow.
I am thrilled to be included with my fellow Sinister Six, five tonight. We miss our compatriot, and I look forward to reading a passage for you guys.
Very cool. Tom.
Hey everybody, Tom Deady, horror writer, winner of the Bram Stoker Award for Haven, written several novels, novellas, short story collection, some YA horror novels, and recently edited the Rack series, and I will be reading from Tunnel 17 tonight.
Very cool. And Mercedes.
Hi, I am Mercedes. I am a horror writer. I just won the Bram Stoker Award for my collection, Love is a Crematorium. I currently smell like gingerbread because we just made sinister gingerbread cookies that say "Go
Mhm.
die, please," and or axes and things. And we're sending them with my kids to a church event tonight that I'm not going to. And yeah, I'm really excited to read from my novella. It's called The Witches of Paradise, and it's like a sister book to a series I have coming out.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay, so what I would like to do, and again, Cindy, you're so lucky because you get to go first. I'm going to say before you start reading the thing that you didn't say, which is that you are also a Bram Stoker Award winner. And
I didn't introduce myself, did I? I just
no,
said
you did
hi.
not.
I did
You
not.
did
Well,
not.
let me back up and start over.
There you go.
I'm Cindy O'Quinn. I'm an Appalachian writer of psychological suspense, Appalachian folk horror, just a little bit of everything. Poetry, just this, that, and everything. And I'm honored to be among these five other wonderful writers. And um, I'm just honored. They're all so talented. I wish Sarah was here with us. I wish Rich was here, and I hope, whatever family issues are going on, that everything will work out fine. So, yes, I am also a Bram Stoker Award winner for short fiction for my story Quandam.
I got to call your
And
name.
I know that was so
Oh, how cool is
exciting,
that?
Mercedes.
Oh,
So, and I was right in front of you last year whenever they called your name.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
great.
So, do you want me to read a little bit now, Skip?
I think that would be wonderful. Tell them the name of the story that you're doing,
Okay.
and if you want to set it up in any sort of way for context.
Okay. All right. My novella is Cult of Least Resistance, and it is about a cult. It focuses on a little girl named Charlie Heartless. Um, as this cute little, we have our illustrations, and you can see a little girl being carried away. Is she being rescued by this policeman, or is it something else?
Mhm.
Anyway, um, where I'll start is kind of near the beginning. She's been in several foster families situations, and yet again, she's being whisked away to another home. Okay,
Go
here
for
we
it.
go. The miles clicked away, and as they did, I felt I was approaching familiar territory. I'd been here before, after all. And I'm not talking about the location. I tried to shake off the feeling, but there was no way to get rid of it. We had already traveled for nearly an hour on secondary roads, turning every few miles onto an even narrower road or lane. Eventually, we turned one last time. Dark Hollow Road. Must have been some hellish joke. Each home was worse than the last in one way or another. What was waiting for me this time at the end of Dark Hollow? The Oldsmobile slowed to a crawl. I strained my eyes in an attempt to see what lay ahead. There it was, my next holding cell. An old ranch style house, one story. That was a good sign. I'd already made up my mind during the drive over that if this placement turned out to be another form of hell, I would escape and I would at least wouldn't have to jump out of a second story window. The first glimpse of my new wardens revealed very little. The pair stood motionless on the front porch, which ran the full length of the house. Their appearance was plain and unthreatening, just like the house. However, their smiles might have been just a little bit too big. But I was surprised their teeth weren't filed down to flesh-tearing points. I knew only too well appearances were deceiving, so I told myself not to get my hopes up. My caseworker made the introductions. She was officially Mrs. Kitchen, but I called her Eliza, and we had done so since our very first meeting. As for the couple reaching out to shake hands with me now, they were Little Mary and Bledsoe Ramsey of Nelson County, Virginia. The story was they had never had children of their own, so they took in those that had nowhere else to go. Logical enough. I told myself, but if history repeated itself, logic would dissipate as soon as my caseworker exited the driveway. Knowing the Ramseys, Eliza hung around for a little while. Once inside, I found the house to be unusually quiet. It was unlike all of my other placements, where there had always been chaos, commotion, mess, no matter what time of day. Something else that struck me as unusual. I saw no other signs of children, no other children. I wondered if I would be the only one here. In this regular-looking couple? Unlikely, I told myself. It's been my experience that people took in children, they took them in for money. And that was that, bottom line. So the more children you had, the bigger the monthly check. The couple invited Eliza to stay for a meal the first meal in my new prison. She accepted, so I allowed myself to breathe. After we had finished eating, little Mary suggested I take a walk, get the lay of the land. She told me she had some catching up to do with her friend, and they would like to do so as they cleaned up the kitchen. I figured little Mary wanted to get the full scoop from Eliza on all the past homes I had survived. Oh well, that was fine with me. It meant that I got out of doing the dishes. I'd only been walking for a few minutes when I heard the sound of running water, and it wasn't long before I found myself standing next to a creek. It was neither wide nor deep, with all the matter of rocks scattered about, forming an erratic shoreline. It sounded kind of impressive. I had a flashback of myself as a small child playing in a familiar stream, one very similar to this one. A little girl about my age was running through the water next to me. She tilted her head back and squealed with delight as the cold creek water splashed onto her skin. I felt astonished to have actually had a friend. But there she was, with shoulder-length golden hair, her eyes a sparkling blue, and a smile that lit up the afternoon. I felt true happiness and a freedom I didn't think possible. A burning sensation in my eyes brought me back to the here and now. I wiped the warm tears away before they could make the journey down my cheeks. I wondered if it was true, if it was a true memory. I hoped against hope that it was, that perhaps at some point in my childhood, I actually had known such a joy. I'll leave it at that.
That was great.
Thank you.
I love that. So yeah, I love how you read it too. It really just takes you there.
Thank you, Skip.
So you write these regional family stories with deep roots and entanglements and a whole lot of the lore of the place, like forever.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, but yet every story is different. So
Right.
I guess what I want to ask you is what steered you down this particular back road to the story?
Well, there was a few things. I do have a history with foster care. When I was really young, I took in foster children as for respite, just to give the foster parents a break. So if a foster parent needed to have surgery or something, I would take in the child, for a week to 3 weeks, ever how long it took for them to, get back on their feet. Or if there was a child that was going to be placed with a grandparent or something and they needed time to get their home ready, I would do that. So there are good foster
Yes,
homes parents out there.
yes, thank God.
Charlie runs into, a lot of bad ones, but they're good ones out there. So that, coming into play whenever I included the foster care system. As far as what triggered the cult story,
Yeah.
um, I wrote this started out as a short novel, which I wrote about a decade ago, and it was triggered by an experience I had. Um, I wanted a little getaway. So my eldest son found a place for me to go, and I had planned on spending a month. And I got there and I lasted, I think, one night, and it felt a little too cultish to me. So
Mm,
I made my exit the next day.
no shit.
So those feelings stuck with me and ended up spilling out on the pages.
There you go.
Yeah,
Again, it's a really rich and multi-layered story with a lot of surprises in the layers, and y'all want to read it. Uh,
I
so
appreciate that. Thank
there
you.
you go. So, Errick, you're going to read us some cool stuff. You want to set it up?
All right, yeah, I'm going to read from Agent Josephine Baker Against the Island of Horrors, and this is a reimagining of Josephine Baker, which I think most people are familiar with, as an agent who basically does freelance work for the Allies, and she is sort of ruthlessly efficient at eliminating Nazis.
There you go. Okay, clarifying allies in World War II.
Allies in World War II, yes. I'm swimming in this, and it's starting to feel like the present. I, I
Yes,
would like to say that there are some Italian and French phrases scattered in this, and I forgive me anybody who actually speaks Italian or French. We're going to do the best we can here.
fair enough.
Okay, so the setup actually is that Josephine has been brought into a situation where Allied agents have been getting mysteriously murdered by a seemingly invisible killer, and they're being murdered in a pretty gruesome manner.
Right.
So she is investigating under the guise of touring through Europe. So this scene, they've just gotten off of a train in Italy.
Beautiful.
The train pulled into the station at Bari, and Max readied himself to go and fetch the car. Josephine pulled up her collar, donned a pair of round sunglasses, and pulled down her hat. It was time to be as anonymous as possible. On the platform, she waited with the bags, standing in the shade with her back to a windowless wall. Help you with your bags, Miss Baker? Lorenzo's painted-on smile had all the charm of a cigar store Indian. Josephine didn't smile. She met his eyes and said, "No, thank you, Lorenzo." His face danced between emotions for a moment as he unbuttoned his coat to show that he had a gun tucked into his belt. He patted the weapon and said, "Are you sure I can't change your mind?" She said, "And if I scream, then I'll kill you here and you'll never know why. Camicineri will understand." Josephine weighed her options, truly curious as to what had led Lorenzo to this moment. "What do you want, Lorenzo?" "Let's go," he said. "In there, you socialist Kanya." He jingled his keys and indicated a storage space for luggage at the depot. Josephine took a moment to consider what Kanya meant. The inflection of the word passing over the lips of a man was unmistakable. She took a slow, calm walk in the indicated direction. After all, he did have a gun at hand. "Credere, obedir, combattere, is that right?" Baby black shirt? You'll be a big man now, I suppose. Lorenzo opened the door and pushed Josephine into the room, muttering something in Italian. His size ensured his push made her stumble forward. She regained her balance and turned, removing her sunglasses now that they were indoors. Lorenzo rewarded her with a poorly thrown punch to the jaw. It snapped her head, but didn't move her feet. She nodded and tucked her glasses into her breast pocket, and considered what else to say that might antagonize him or make him think or perhaps compel him to give up this foolish course of action. Nothing came to mind. She scanned the room. Suitcases, trunks, and other baggage surrounded them. Her thoughts narrowed to the task at hand. Rather than tense, she loosened, understanding where her balance and strength were centered and what it meant to move in ways difficult to anticipate. Lorenzo squared up on her and said, "You Americans so cocksure of yourselves. Allies with the communists overrun with socialists." Josephine rolled her eyes and slipped her fingers around the knife up her sleeve while holding Lorenzo's gaze. "Why me, Lorenzo? Why are you doing this?" "Because I can read. I saw the reports, put it together, and you are the common fact. You were always in the room. No one believes me, but they'll soon see." "No one believes you because you're a fool." "I am not a fool." Lorenzo spat the words. "And with you gone, the truth will shine." "You are a fool for following into that black shirt bullshit, for believing Mussolini's lies." Lorenzo reached for his pistol with the slow, menacing, and altogether overconfident pace of a man lost in other men's lies. "An American Negress socialist like you will never understand what credere, obbedire, combattere truly mean." Josephine stepped forward and in one motion placed her dagger to his throat and wrapped her right hand around the pistol grip protruding from his pants. The click of the safety rang ominous to his ears. "Believe me, this isn't for punching a lady. It's for travail, famille, patrie," she said, and pulled the trigger. The muffled shot sent pain through Lorenzo's body, the likes of which he had never known. It forced him to double over, impaling his neck on her blade. The blade slipped easily out of his throat as she stepped aside to avoid the crumpling corpse and the gout of blood. Josephine ground her teeth and said to Lorenzo's remains, "And I'll never be American bit." She realized that Lorenzo's death might help prove him right. Better that he disappear for good, leaving nothing but questions. Casting about the room, she found a trunk the right size and emptied its contents. Then she pushed the body into it, using his clothing to tie off the bleeding wound and mop the bulk of his blood from the floor. The clothes joined Lorenzo in the trunk. Her gloves she turned inside out and shoved into her pocket. When Max returned, Josephine was waiting where he'd left her, and the train chugged away. "Désolé pour le retard. Sorry for it took so long. I hope your wait was uneventful." He began loading baggage onto a cart. "Well, the train crew were calling for Lorenzo earlier. It appears he abandoned his job. Nobody knows where he is at the moment." Max stopped loading the baggage and peered at Josephine. Then he noticed the unfamiliar trunk. "Oh, Miss Baker, no." "Oh, Maxie, let's get out of here." Max took a beat before he said, right away, mademoiselle. This way to the car." And, as usual, it gets worse from here.
Of course. Good stuff, man.
Thank you.
So, I mean, obviously, you picked an amazing character with an amazing history to set this thing in motion. What made you want to turn her into a fabulous spy killer with conversant with supernatural as well as natural horror?
Well, I've been fascinated with the history of people who sort of precede um, really well recorded history, and so when it comes to Black folks, usually their past is pretty murky. A lot of the family history has been obscured because of the actions of the times.
Yes.
So there are aspects of Josephine's backstory that are a little gray. And I had seen this photo of her wearing a military uniform. And then when I looked into it, I found out that she actually did use her fame, her access in places to inform on, the various Axis powers. Um, and she was in effect a secret agent, but she certainly wasn't to the extent that I made her in this book. And
Right.
I really just wanted to really dial that up to 11.
Yeah, no, it's really super fun. Um, and yeah, some
Yeah.
Nazis it doesn't work out so good for.
No, singing, dancing, murdering Nazis. It's the whole way through.
It's all good. So yeah, again, another reason to get this book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I should also
Yeah,
mention that
please.
it's Mercedes' fault. That early on we were trying to figure out what we were writing, what we were going to do for this book, and
Ah,
she made a snarky offhand comment in email, taking two ideas that I had and mashed them up into something that was completely absurd. And I was like, that is exactly what I'm going to write.
That sounds about right.
That sounds
okay.
about right.
And oh, I need to hear the details of this smushing together.
Oh, well, I had mentioned that I wanted to do something. I think I wanted to do something with Josephine Baker, and then I had this idea about an island that had these horrific things on it.
Right?
And she made this offhand comment, mashing everything together and featuring Josephine riding something through tunnels. And I was like, yeah, that's definitely going to happen.
That's
So,
definitely going to happen.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Mercedes, you want to
Hi, I have a kiddo that just showed up.
Mercedes has
okay,
company.
I'll tell you what. Should you want to hang for a little bit and I'll have somebody else do it?
That would be amazing.
That's how
It'll
we're gonna
take just
do
a
it.
sec to settle him, but then we'll be good.
It's a
Thank you.
deal. Okay, Michael. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Can we hear you? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So set us up with your crazy story.
So my story is Vengeful Spirits. It is the story of a woman bootlegger who gets embroiled in machinations out of her control that threaten the world. And the piece I am going to read is near the beginning. It's there's a stoolie, just like one of those, little rat fink type of guys who wants to, rise in an organization who's noticed something in an alleyway, and this is where we're gonna start.
Beautiful. Go on in. I'll ask questions later.
Yep. Candles flickered in the overstuffed library, casting writhing shadows across the shelves so that the lettering seemed to crawl across the spines of the books. Sulfur hung heavily in the enclosed space. Truth to tell, there was electricity in the building and lamps aplenty throughout the room, but the tall man preferred the candlelight, especially here in the library and whenever he wished to contact one of his fellows. It somehow made him feel more attuned to his secret brothers and sisters and the responsibility they all shared. As for him, he was merely the latest caretaker of this knowledge in a long lineage. He did not regret having taken up this mantle and sacrificing all for it: family, romance, wealth. There was no way to put a value on the riches he safeguarded. His family were his fellows in this monumental task, although he had limited contact with them. Despite that fact, his heart was full. The man removed a massive tome from his nearby valise and clutched the black-bound book to his chest, folding his lanky legs beneath him to sit cross-legged on the floor, the creak of settling timbers and the sizzle of burning wicks the only sounds. The room itself seemed to be holding its breath. The man did not move, but sat there on the floor as though he were in a trance. Sam watched from the shadows. The fine hairs on his arms and neck stood on end. It was like static electricity in the air before a thunderstorm rolling in off Lake Erie. Everything was still. If he was going to find out anything from Mr. Dalitz, now was his chance, while this mook was in a trance or whatever. Nervously, Sam stole from behind the bookcase where he was hiding and crept forward on silent rodent feet, drawing his leather-weighted sap from inside his coat. The man didn't seem to notice him. A great black-bound book lay in the man's lap. He had both palms flat on the cover and was resting his chin on his chest. Sam chanced to look around, hoping this guy's trance was a deep one. More books, but nothing as impressive as the one he was holding, were piled on the tables around the room. Crumbling papers jutted from metal tubes. These things, and the strange vessels and rods also atop a table, made Sam doubt this guy was a Fed. Where are the guns? What about a radio set up to contact his FBI buddies? Perhaps he was some kind of loon, but either way, rat or nut job, Sam figured the safest thing to do was to take him out. Besides, this place gave him the heebie-jeebies. Sam raised the black sap and hesitated. The air had changed somehow, as if a storm had finally arrived. He thought he could hear a voice far away, echoing in his head. The mark didn't move. Sam had to get out of this strange place. He was spooked, and he didn't know why. Shaking, he brought his blunt instrument down across the back of the guy's head, hitting him again as he fell forward. Having little use for books himself, Sam couldn't really explain why he'd decided to take the big black-bound volume from beneath the man lying still on the floor. His only interest was in becoming a made man in the Mayfield Road gang. But take it he did. Maybe Mr. Dalitz will know what to make of it. Sam slipped out as quickly and as silently as he could. In the wake of his departure, the candle flames fluttered like angry serpents, the shimmering orange light casting a glow in the blood pooling around the body on the floor.
Good stuff, man.
Thanks.
So what I really, really like here is just that this is the place where the noir crime and the occult mysticism collide, and that is pretty much the heart of your story. You want to talk about how that came to be? What made these two great tastes want to taste great together?
So I was going to go with an entirely different story for this anthology. I've published a couple of stories of some 17th century. They were Irishmen that were pressed into service to the King of Prussia in the early 1700s, and that king had this retinue of private guards that were all over 6 feet. They were called the Potsdam Giants. And I thought I would write a story about them and the Knights Templar.
Okay.
But I'm just like, I don't want to do that much research. So I cast about for a different secret society, and for a couple of weeks I was just looking for stuff and kind of wondering why I didn't just go with the Knights Templar.
Right.
And then I struck on the idea to write about my main character is my maternal great-grandmother.
Oh,
She was a bootlegger. She has echoes of Josephine and Errick's story. She was also purported to be a spy.
Nice.
The family doesn't really know everything about my great grandmother, but she's a fascinating lady from all accounts. And I'm like, she's my main character. I just need to pick a secret society and run with this. So I
Yeah.
ended up doing just as much research as I would have done for the Knights Templar as I weaved in some family history. The Mayfield Road Gang was an actual organization, and Mr. Dalitz that I mentioned in my passage
Yeah.
was a real person who ended up being one of the people that started Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. So I guess it worked out better for him in this reality.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I love how things sneak up and in and tell you that they want to be in your story. I'm really curious what your great grandmother thinks of it.
She passed when I was 10. I remember her. And I wrote a story about her from an episode I remember when I was 10. I wrote her as an old woman in a cosmic horror.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that was beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
and again, reason number three on why you want to check this book out. Mercedes, good? Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, um, as you mentioned, this is part of a larger tale, but we'll go into that in a minute. You want to set this one up?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for your grace. My kid was just back here on the bed. He thought your story was riveting, Michael. So thank you. Thank you guys. Yeah, so this is a story called The Witches of Paradise. And the idea is it's a long line of women that basically have to keep the evil of the town at bay. It's magical surrealism. This one is being burned as a witch. And so where the story comes in, her name is Nautica. She's actually like hung up by her hands, the beams of her house from this person that purported to love her, which is, what usually happens with witches. And forgive my reading, I'm having massive hemorrhages in both eyes right now. So I will do my very best with what I can see. But so the Witches of Paradise.
Okay.
Nautica wanted to shout. She wanted to heroically tear herself down from the beam and beat every last man to a pulp. If she could, she would have turned their flames back on them and forced them to run for the creek to put themselves out. Don't look, her hair said, and slid itself over her eyes. Shh, it's much gentler this way. Nautica wept. She heard raucous laughter and the strange airy sounds the flames made as they roasted her palate, as they tasted the walls of her home and found them delicious. The men stampeded outside, and she was left with the merry crackling of her life being torn and devoured by fiery teeth. More, the fire groaned. Its voice started small, but became deeper, darker, louder and full of greed. More, more, more. Her tears seeped into her blindfold made of her own hair. The wetness evaporated off her cheeks nearly instantly. Her skin singed, burned, and she tried to pull herself away from the heat, her feet pedaling uselessly in the air as she tried to find purchase. It's all right, her hair comforted her. It began to stink, curling in the heat when the flames got too close. We'll be with you after all. Oh, it's him. Nautica thought she heard the shattering of glass as the small windows blew out, but her world was a gibbering, nearly mindless place of noise and heat and light flickering behind her closed eyes. She fought harder, trying to pull herself up, as if keeping her feet off the ground would somehow save her. Look at him, her hair said dreamily, and floated away. Nautica was scattered, frantic. She opened her eyes and there was nothing, nothing, simply an inferno that gnawed at everything, and which in seconds would be gnawing at her, too. The heat forced her to sweat, which was licked away immediately in the dry air. As her skin reddened and blistered, she opened her mouth to scream. And then she saw him, the man, standing outside her window, poised as if ready to run, his eyes reflecting raging fire. So still, so calm. Soon he would bound away and save himself, but right now they held one another's gaze. He was nothing like Brand, who was filled with darkness and dead, rotted things. The man's eyes held worlds, the cosmos, full of life and everything that ever was, and had been, and would be. His hair blew back from his face, twirling in the fiery wind, shining with falling embers, and it was like looking at the face of a god. Oh, he's so beautiful. A spiral ember landed on his cheek and went out. Nautica saw a tiny red spot where it had touched. Run, she thought at him, and he started, blinked. He tilted his head, his eyes wide, bright moons. Run, she thought again. She was coughing in the smoke now, breathing it in, her already tender vocal cords swelling and charring. You will die if you stay here. Go. His face was so ethereal, so serene. Nautica tried to hold the calmness inside her mind, to face her death with as much dignity as she could, but the flames were running across the wooden beam now. They licked the rope before devouring it. Nautica's hands and wrists were touched by flame. They burned. As she tipped her head back, a dark, guttural scream wrenched from her mouth, and she heard all the agony in it, the burning, the biting, the abandonment. She shrieked, and years of pain poured out. With it, she felt each cuff across the face from every man her mother had ever brought home, felt every time a girl had turned away from her at school, the physical pain of carrying water and fixing house beams without anyone to help her, the disgust that twisted in her gut when Grand leered at her or stood even taller so as to loom over her. She cried and howled, and her hair followed suit while the fire laughed and laughed and laughed. Stop, said a voice in her head. It was exquisitely beautiful, soft, and sad. No more. Taken aback, the fire paused. Nautica's hair rubbed the soot out of her eyes. The air cleared briefly, the smoke frozen in place, and Nautica managed to catch a short breath. She couldn't see him through the haze and the flame, but Nautica knew the man was still at the window. His eyes were beacons that she could feel rather than see. Her body ceased writhing and unconsciously pointed itself toward him. Come, he said to her, and everything started up again. The fire took great big bites from the rope, feasting on it and on her fingers. The rope snapped. That's really all that needed to be said, wasn't it? 3 words, encompassing a miracle. The rope snapped. The fire shrieked. Nautica fell.
Damn.
Yay, that's my story.
Yeah. But what's really, really fascinating to me in this thing is just how pantheistic it is, in that everything is alive. Her hair is alive, the fire is alive, the moon is alive, the wind is alive, everything is alive, which is pretty much what I think it is. But yours talks more. So, so please, tell, this is part of a larger body of work. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yes, so I'm so excited. All of my work is connected. If you've read Pretty Little Dead Girls, the desert alive is trying to kill Bryony. This is in that world is this world. I'm rewriting Darling, which was pulled when the company I was with no longer does single author work. So Darling is being rewritten. I just turned it back in 30% more with the moon and the stars, and the stag makes an appearance in it. And that is coming out next year. And then the year after that, I have a novel coming out called Paradise. And this is the origin story of Paradise. And it is also the origin story of the villain. Darling is out, but the renewed version is more the origin story of the villain, the handsome butcher in Darling. So the ultimate evil creature, you see him as a young, innocent man in this. And then you see this family line, and the very last person in this family line is the main character in my story, Paradise. So it's just, they're sister stories, and they're just, I love it so much. It's my favorite thing I wrote in a while. So
Nice, nice.
I kind of wrote it like this,
Right?
So,
Yeah, no, it's crazy how hard that one blasts off the page. And again, just could not be more surreal.
thank
And
you, Skip.
yeah,
Thank you.
well, fucking fantastic. And again, now there's 4 reasons, 4 reasons to get this book. And Tom, take us away, man. Set us up. Actually, set us up and then take us away.
All right, I'm hoping I'm not the one reason not to buy the book after this.
You aren't.
So my story, the society involved are the Molly Maguires, who were originally an Irish group who eventually came over to the United States when a lot of other Irish folks were coming over, and Their goal was to get better conditions for the miners, which a lot of the miners were either Chinese or Irish back then. And they worked in brutal, unsafe, low-paying conditions. And the Molly Maguire's goal was to get more pay and better working conditions. And as often happens, sometimes their solutions were as bad as the conditions their own people were in. They were pretty brutal in their methods in working with the mine owners, using brutality and intimidation to get what they wanted.
Right.
Um, so ostensibly, it's a Molly Maguire story, but Skip, as you know, it's not so secretly a crooked story. So.
There you go. Yeah. Take it away, baby.
All right, so basically what happens in the part I'm about to read here is um, the miners all know there's this almost mythical Tunnel 17 where if you screw up or if you're a bad worker or you just get in the bad graces of the mine foreman, you get sent to Tunnel 17 and nobody ever sees you again. So there's speculation that the miners are being murdered, or it's basically like a prison under the mine, and nobody really knows what's going on. So in this scene, the Molly Maguires had sabotaged the mine elevator, so the second shift miners couldn't work. So two of the protagonists have decided they're going to sneak down and find out what's really going on in Tunnel 17.
There you go.
All right. Roan shook his head. I'll go first. Before Moore could argue, he took hold of the rope and began his descent. The climb was much more difficult than he thought, and a lightning bolt of panic ran through him at the thought of trying to climb up the same distance. Too late now, he thought. Ignoring the ache in his arms, he continued until he reached the main shaft. He called up to Moore, now 200 feet above him, and set to lighting the lanterns. He'd never been in the mines in such utter darkness. The knowledge that the mines had closed in around him was suddenly sure. He knew if he reached out in any direction, he'd touch the cold, unrelenting stone. With shaky hands, he got the lanterns lit. The flames pushed the mine walls back, but did nothing to alleviate the suffocating fear. A few minutes later, a grunting and out-of-breath Moore dropped next to him. In the flickering light, he saw sweat pouring down the man's face, and that electric panic ran through him again. Moore was so much bigger, there was so much more weight to haul up that rope. He shook the thought away. Moore was also a lot stronger. Do you know where we're going? He asked. The big man nodded, still breathing too hard to speak. He pointed, took one of the lanterns, and started walking. Roan followed. After a few minutes, Roan asked, "What do you think we're going to find?" There was a long pause, the only sound their scuffling boots on the stony ground. "I honestly don't know," Moore said finally, "but I'm afraid it's going to be a lot worse than anything my mind could conjure." This gave Roan a chill. Moore was a stoic man, level-headed, always calm. He was never one to get caught up in any of the superstitions so many miners believed in. To hear him talk like this, the realization that nobody else knew they were down there took Roan's breath away. If anything happened, they'd just be gone, like they'd never existed. He gasped, sucking in great gulps of air. When Moore turned, he disguised his panic with a cough. "There," Moore called, holding the lantern high, almost touching the mine's low ceiling. To his right, barely visible, was a small opening in the rocks. Moore went closer, climbing up and holding the lantern in front of him. "It's a small shaft. Looks to be a gate blocking it off." Then he was gone. Roan ran to the opening and scrambled up, peering over the rocks. Moore was inside, yanking at the metal bars that stretched across the tunnel. There was a chain and padlock, but Moore had found a tamping pole and was working the hinge on the other side of the gate. "What are you doing?" Roan exclaimed as he climbed through the opening. "They'll know we were here." "They'll know someone was here," Moore grunted. The hinge snapped under the weight of the big man, and the gate hung crooked, leaving enough room for them to pass through. Using the tamping pole as a pry bar, Roan levered the gate back into position. It wouldn't open properly with the broken hinge, but looked undamaged at a glance. They could rig the gate closed on the way out to cover their tracks. If we get out. The thought came unbidden and sent another cold jolt of dread through him. They walked in silence through the tunnel, their lanterns sending eerie shadows dancing across the walls. Moore came to a sudden stop, holding up a hand. At first there was nothing, but just as Roan was about to ask him what he'd heard, a strange sound echoed down the tunnel. It was a grunt-like noise, but not quite. An injured man was Roan's first thought, but he quickly dismissed it. Moore gave him a questioning look and he nodded. Then a guttural sound, closer to a growl, bounced off the walls ahead. Every instinct was screaming at Roan to turn around and get out of there. Instead, he stepped ahead and walked with slow, exaggerated steps deeper into the tunnel. He didn't turn to see if Moore was following. He knew he wouldn't give up that easily. Roan stayed close to the wall as he navigated the tunnel. When he emerged on the other side of a sharp S-curve, he stopped abruptly. This time it wasn't a noise that halted his steps. He could see light ahead. He quickly extinguished his lantern and motioned for Moore to do the same. The sounds were louder, a strange, almost animal sort of snuffling and growling. Roan edged closer, almost around another bend, then froze. The tunnel ahead dead-ended, but light was being thrown from an opening on the right, about 60 feet ahead, just before the cave wall that signaled the end of the line. Something moved beyond the curve, throwing shadows on the wall. Something was in the tunnel. Someone was in the tunnel just around the corner. Or maybe it opened into a chamber. That made more sense. He crept closer, sticking to the right-hand wall, giving him a better view of the shadows on the left side of the tunnel. Someone was walking around. He could see the shadow clearly, but it didn't look quite right. The person walked sort of hunched over, lumbering. He felt Moore grip his arm, but shook his hand off. A voice echoed from the cavern, but it was distorted, so they couldn't make out the words. The figure moved faster, loping back and forth. Then a scream erupted, multiplied tenfold by the echoes. The shadow bounded back and forth faster, like a horse galloping in a circle in its corral. Roan thought briefly of Plato's allegory of the cave, watching the shadows. Then the growl escalated into a howl, but was soon drowned out by screaming. Then silence. Roan stared at Moore, the man barely visible in the dim light. Still, Roan could see the wide eyes and the horrified visage and knew it matched his own. He motioned for Moore to go back the way they'd come. As he followed, taking aching care to remain silent, another sound rose from the chamber, the wet slurping and sucking of an animal feeding. I'm going to stop there.
There you go.
Thank you.
Wrap it up with mayhem, I think, is definitely the way to do this event. So, yeah, man, I really, really like how you brought the working class concerns into the horror story, because I really like when things happen on, again, more than one level. What prompted you to want to go into the mine with these guys?
Well, since I've moved out to Arizona and my wife and I bought an RV and we tour around going to all kinds of weird ghost towns and abandoned mines basically.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I've actually been in a few of the mines on tours and listened to a lot of the folks whose ancestors worked there and told, second and third hand stories of what not the 1800s obviously, but the mines are still active this last century. So
Right.
hearing a lot of the stories and hearing a lot of the awful conditions and the death and dismemberment that took place on every day of a normal workday down there.
Yeah.
And being actually there, they are some of the creepiest, but I can't imagine going to work every day and something like that. It was just, I just knew I had to write something about it.
Yeah, you really, really, really bring the dread of that job home in this story. I think it works really, really well. Okay, so we're
Thank
five
you.
for five, and the fact of the matter is, if Sarah were here, we would be 6 for 6. Trust me when I tell you that it's a really, really cool, again, very berserk and surreal story that puts a really, really nice punchline on this whole affair. So now what I want to ask you guys is, how did this book come together? What was the as horrible screenwriting instructors would say, what was the inciting incident that made this thing happen?
Richard?
There you go. Okay, and what did Richard do to make this happen?
Well, I know in my case he basically just reached out to see if I would contribute something to this, and I'm assuming that's kind of how it came together. It was pretty loose. I think he'd intended to do something as well, but he'd asked all of us to just to gauge interest in doing something like that.
Right on. So he came with the Sinister Society's idea and said, "Y'all want to play?"
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that across the case with everybody?
he came to me like 6 months after he came to you guys. I had like a 2 month window to hurry and like I think he wanted to round it out a little bit or maybe add another like female voice or something. But
He wanted to bring in some actual talent, that's all.
oh, thank you, Eric. Yeah, he needed more inciting incidents, so he brought me along. So that was really interesting to come in, and you guys were all going, and I was like, I've got to think of something like immediately. But it was so fun because everyone, like, we had a really great, like, big email chain going, and everyone's bouncing ideas, and so much fun, and just kind of funny how everyone kind of fed off each other's ideas a little bit or contributed in that way. It was really a friendly, great project with a lot of there was no like, there's usually, oh, it's so and so that showed up. There's none of that with this
Right.
group. It's just really friendly.
They were
and
just
cool.
like, who's Michael Burke?
Michael Burke again.
I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like that's what I was saying.
Right. So tell
I
me,
have to say, I've contributed to a bunch of anthologies and things like that. This entire process from inception to writing to editing and now to the marketing and launch phase has probably been the most professional and well organized experience of my writing career. So there is that.
that's fantastic. And I'm guessing that Linda had a lot to do with that as well.
Oh, Linda
Yes,
and the magic red
absolutely.
pen, absolutely.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, she's so cool, and I've been friends with her for years, and just uh, yeah, have great respect for her brain and soul. So yeah, tell me a little bit about. I mean, I want to hear more about this email thread. She was on it, right?
Linda, yeah, she
Oh
was.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Was she like steering the ship, or how did it? Was it pretty much organically self-steering?
That was torture.
Torture. I'm sorry. I'm
She
trying
had
to.
six of us to juggle.
No matter what
100%
everyone else
torture.
think, Linda's in charge, so she was definitely steering the ship.
Right on.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah,
she
that's
kind of took us aside or at least me, because my story was really hard. Like, things were him that we talk about, it's all capital letters, and the moon is this way. And I feel like she kind of took me aside and steered me gently away from the group so that we didn't like, I didn't feel like she was like, okay, Mercedes, this really needs a lot of extra help. I'm going to tell the group how difficult you're being. She was very like, wow, let's go. Now, Mercedes, my special friend, let's come talk over here. Like she was really great to, I think,
What
preserve my
I
dignity because I was like, help, I'm drowning. And she's like, let's
I
And
mean,
she was the same way with me. So thank
fantastic,
goodness for Linda. Yeah.
fantastic.
I think that's kind of how it's got to be when you have a collaborative thing. I mean, the one thing that you never do is call out somebody in front of everybody because that you're a bully and a dick. So of course she did that exactly right, and the results speak for themselves. Michael, you were going to say something before I.
what I found like so wonderful about Linda was like I'd heard a lot of great things about her from people in the community. So I was excited that she was the editor for this. But in my experience in this anthology with her, what I found incredible was how how swiftly she worked while being professional, maintaining her sense of humor, which is
Huge.
delightful. And just she was top notch all the way. I don't know if the rest of these guys agree with me. I would think they would, but I want to work with her again.
Yeah, she handled deadlines pretty gracefully. Yeah, because
Deadline.
it got pretty messy there at the end, and I
Yeah,
was a
Nunnally.
culprit. I really struggled to not only come up with an idea for this, but to execute it. Um, and then when I did, it wasn't quite long enough, right? There were all these problems with it, but I believed in the idea, and so did Linda. So it worked.
Yeah, yeah,
Somehow it worked.
you got it there.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let me see. I'm trying to think. Well, does anybody who is watching this have a question that they want to throw in while I think about possibly having some other ones? Because this would be a good time for it. And if there is nobody who wants to do that, I'm looking at my imaginary watch.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd just like to give a special shout out, not only to Linda, because she is such a wonderful editor, but to Rich, for hand picking each one of us. We each have such different voices. So it
Yes.
was great to be able to, encompass all of these unique talents that I'm surrounded with here. But thanks to Elizabeth and Deborah, working behind the scenes to pull all this together, and Skip for his foreword, and Lynn Hanson for her beautiful cover. I'm just honored to be with y'all.
Oh yeah. I did, I will throw the legend word around a little too easily, but yeah, having John Skipp on board was definitely a
Uh,
motivator.
yeah.
Giddy. Giddy about you, Skip. Just giddy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you're a
well,
monster.
You know what I tried? All six of us were present for one day only at StokerCon in Connecticut.
Oh,
I had Cindy, Sarah, and Tom with me, and I could see Mercedes across all the way down the hall, but she was engaged with someone, and Nunnally was probably drinking in his room. Um, and I just thought it would have been nice if we could have all just been in one spot, taken a picture. I remember talking to Cindy about that there, and just like I would have loved to have given it to Rich and maybe
yeah.
had it in the book.
All of
Yeah.
that was accurate. I saw Rich for
Right.
barely 30 seconds, and then
uh,
someone would told me that Cindy was looking for me, and it turns out she was behind me, which was ridiculous.
She's
Yeah, it
always
was all
behind.
ridiculous. Cindy's always behind me.
is that true? So sneaky. So sneaky. Um,
Lurking in the background.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I have to say, um, Cindy was the one who tipped me on this and introduced me to Rich, and uh, that's how I fell in, and for which I am very grateful. And yeah, Rich is
So are
awesome.
we.
Yeah, he's such a good guy, and the fact that he's pulling this together and pulling this company together to publish things like this, and I have a funny feeling that his press is going to stick around for a while. That he's putting so much work into it.
Mm.
Uh, I've been around a lot of publishers, and that is not always the case.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times it's more of a punk DIY kind of thing, and although he is uh, DIY to a huge extent, it's like a self-driving entity. Yeah, I got a funny feeling this might stick around for a while.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
I'm
hope
really
so.
excited. The book is beautiful, and I understand it's going to be in stores in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm really
Today's release day. Here we go.
there. You go.
Yeah.
Da-dun.
I
So
hope it's around for a while. Josephine's got a lot of Nazis to murder, so
there you go. And people need to know. Um, so yeah, here it is. And I don't know, do we have anything else we want to talk about, or should we um
Well, the art,
go on with our evening?
I'll say, so I mentioned right at the top that I'm also a graphic designer, and
Ooh, yeah, that's right.
The artist for this, and I'm sort of quickly flipping through the book here to Kip Ayers. Um, they did the art for the book, and the individual cards are fantastic, but also often the art is done in color. And then it goes into a book like this, and it's
Mhm.
in black and white. And it never converts well, but
Oh,
Kip did the art in black and white, right? So it reproduces well. And
yes, like
it's
it's
just
supposed to.
fantastic. You know, we all provided some prompts for them to do it. And if anybody's ordering the book, I believe they'll get a card, one card that goes with it. I'm not sure if there's going to be a mechanism to get all three, but to get all three cards to see the full artwork on its own, fantastic.
You have to go to every store and buy all the baseball cards. No, wait. Um, yeah, no, the design is beautiful. It's a class act all the way, is what I'm trying to say. It really is. It's a beautiful piece.
I
So
remember the
full of beautiful
email.
pieces. So, okay, shall we call it a night? What do you think?
John,
You
we
got any last things you want to say to the nice folks?
John, we did have a quick question in the chat. Um,
Please.
it was from Carol. So many different stories. Do you have thoughts about how some are interconnected?
Who wants to take that one?
I do actually.
Cool.
What's funny to me about that is I feel like our stories aren't as interconnected. Like this story doesn't remind me of that story, but this story reminds me of that person. I feel like our stories are interconnected. Like I was just saying in chat, Tom's story just chills me to the bone because I come from a mining community and we lost people in the mines. And we lost not too long ago, my friends were killed in the mines
Oof.
and these different things. Or this came about because, of this conversation that, you know, Eric and I just said something on the slide and it does the story. I feel like our stories connect through people more than subject matter per se. And I find that just really interesting how when you get a group of people together, and I say this all the time, art begets art begets art, right? Someone says something and you take that and run with it, and then you show them, a drawing you did, and they write a story about it, and that reminds them of music, and I think
Exactly.
that we fed off of each other in a very positive way. And I think this group, particularly, some people get very precious about their ideas. Like, I don't want to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to hold it too close to my chest.
Yes, yes,
Everyone
yes.
is really free to be like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. Because I came in late and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I don't want to do the same thing you guys are doing. And they're like, oh, I'm doing this or this or this or this. And they were all crazy and insane and made no sense in like the best ways. And I love that. I thought this was a group that just fed off of each other, that interconnected our stories through people. And are very different stories, but I found it to be a very cohesive collection, a very cohesive anthology. You don't read it and it's not jarring in any way. They just went together beautifully.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating because the stories couldn't be more different. I mean, there is no story that is like any other story in this book. And yet, yeah, I think maybe the secret ingredient is generosity of spirit. Um, and just that you all played really well together, which I think is the heart of the art. Um, and yeah, no, this was one of the things. It's like it was suggested that I write the foreword for this. I'm like, well, I have to read it. So it was sent to me and I read it and I was like, oh hell yeah. Oh hell yeah. I'm more than happy to introduce this book.
I feel
So
like it wouldn't be too heavy a lift for anyone to create a timeline that put each of these stories on that timeline. There's absolutely no reason why all of these don't exist in the same universe.
yeah, I mean, look at the universe. Everybody's stories are happening at the same time. Why wouldn't these ones happen? And no, I think, actually now I want to see that timeline.
Yeah, not the multiverse.
What do you
Fuck
got
that
against
garbage.
multiverse?
Hey
It's
man,
it's
you know
very
what?
nice. It's big. It's a big
We
place.
don't need that out. Okay?
Okay.
We don't need that.
All
One
right.
one of my characters is fresh from World War II. So, I mean, I would be interested to see how they all. I would like a thesis written on this.
There you go. Okay.
We
All
need an
you collegiates,
academic.
yeah, all you collegiates and academics, your duty is clear.
Jack.
Yeah. Everybody's pointing at Jack.
Yeah, Jack. How you doing, man? Oh, can't hear you.
He's
can see-
muted. He's in the audience. He's muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
There you are. I knew you were going to call me out when you said academic.
Sorry, man.
Oh, it sucks that you're known as a thinker. Sorry.
yeah. That'll teach it.
I got to show up drooling somewhere, you know?
As all good academics should. It's so good to see you, man. That's really cool.
It's good to be seen.
There you go. So, okay, unless anybody has anything else, I'm gonna put a wrap on this sucker. What do you think?
Bueller.
Well,
It's
we
been
certainly
really wonderful.
appreciate you being the moderator. Thank
Hey,
you for taking the
one
time.
quick
Yeah, thank you,
thing.
Skip.
Carol in the chat just said, "How about we do a convention panel with us?" And who here is going to StokerCon? I think that's a great idea to pitch a panel.
I think it's a great idea too.
I might.
Elephant.
Elephant.
Where is
Really?
it? Pittsburgh?
Yes,
You know,
right down the street from you,
For me,
relatively speaking.
I'm in north of Boston.
it's a really long street.
I just drove to Pittsburgh in August. It's a hell of a ride.
Well, it's closer than I am and closer than Mercedes, so stop complaining.
Yeah, and I won't be
Yeah,
driving.
pull
out.
yourself together, Michael Burke.
Come on.
Oh,
I won't be driving out from Portland, but I might fly there. You never know.
panel
Okay.
would be fun.
Or virtually too. They're doing virtual panels as well. That might be more feasible.
You go in your house.
Not as much fun, but more feasible.
What do
Yeah, we can't sit on each other's laps virtually, but we can just pretend, right?
you go?
Yeah.
You go in your
Everybody bring digital laps. Okay. Thanks, you guys, and have a beautiful night. And congratulations on the wonderful book.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Thank
Skip.
you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
y'all.
John.
Take
And
care.
everybody.
Have a good
Bye.
night.